Continuing on the hype of last week's patch preview, we finally have it. The full patch notes, patch 2.3 PTR here, if you can log on. Good luck on that. But yeah, we've got quite a show in store for you as we've got more information for everything coming in 2.3. All the great nitty-gritty details. There's still some questions left over on how things are going to work, but we've got most of it figured out. And get ready for tonight's episode. Episode 57, 2.3 PTR, coming at you. With my host here, Lieutenant Lunatic, who, if you missed last week, is now permanent co-host here on the show. So everybody welcome Chris.
Hi. Hey, everybody. Man, that was like a really good intro. And I have to follow that up next week, and I don't know if I can.
Yeah, it was like I did totally not prepare it within the last 30 seconds. Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry if you guys can see my dog in the background. They're going crazy right now, so this is great.
They're so excited about the opening.
They are so excited. They knew PTR was coming. They're running around with bones in their mouths. It's time to go.
It's beautiful. Beautiful time in order to be a Diablo player right now. But before we start getting into the details, let's take a step back for just a second. And Lunatic, tell me, what has your past week in gaming been like?
Oh my goodness, what has my past week? Well, okay, so I've played some Diablo, and if you've listened the past 2 or 3 weeks, my story's the same this week, really, to be honest. I've been doing achievement hunting, as you guys know. Nothing too exciting to report this, nothing to report like this time around, unfortunately, because I'm doing unique enemy or unique boss hunts right now, and it is taking forever. There's like 3 guys in Act 5 that just do not appear. They don't happen, and so.
They do not actually exist in the game?
No, I'm convinced.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember back in Classic when there were some achievements that were not able to be completed because they actually did not exist in the game? They would never spawn.
Luckily I didn't care about achievements as much then, but I do remember that happening. Right now though, I have a bug on my bounties achievement that it says I haven't completed 1,000 bounties, and I've definitely done that. So, Blizzard, if you're listening, fix my bounty achievement, please.
Please, we hope.
Please. Yeah. So, other than that, though, I did get into the PTR tonight, which we'll talk about later. Other than that, it hasn't been a whole lot. I did want to give a shout out to SCX. He's a guy that, fan of the show. He has been helping me hunt for these unique enemies a little bit as well. So thank you, sir. Truly appreciate it. He found me one of the guys from Act 5 that I was struggling with. So
very nice.
Truly appreciate that. I was really excited when he invited me to the game. My wife was like, "That's cheating." And I was like, "It is not, because I got friends."
Mm-hmm. Nothing's cheating when you have friends.
Exactly.
Don't use that as relationship advice, though.
Exactly. No. But yeah, other than that, I haven't been able to play much more than just achievement hunting. I bought a truck this week, and so I'm getting all that paperwork done the next few days, and unfortunately I won't be around this weekend to play any PTR, so hopefully it sticks around, and so all that good stuff. So.
What could possibly get in the way of playing on the PTR this weekend?
I don't know. It's some independence thing that something about red, white, and blue, I guess, that they really hype up around here.
Here I thought Canada Day was today.
Well, funny you should say that, because it's all weekend in America. So that's been my week in gaming, though. Nineball, what have you been up to this week? Life, how about?
Working. Since the last episode, I had Sunday off. And that was about it. The theater that I work at is now fully open, and it's crazy. I want to say that we're not ready. We're supposed to have when we originally were going to go through and do it, we were supposed to have 2 weeks of training. Now we had like 6 days total, and one of those days we had off. They closed the theater for inspection, so it has been an experience. And though I was officially promoted to supervisor on Saturday, so I get to go through and order everybody around.
Yay. Yep. We thought that was coming up quick. You didn't really actually come out and say that, but I think everyone in chat and I was agreeing. It sounded like you were going to get promoted pretty quickly.
Oh yeah,
good on you, man.
Yeah, even before I was actually promoted, I just acted like a supervisor and told everybody how to do things. So, and then they're like, "Okay, well you're already acting it, so here, promotions for everybody."
Promotion.
Yep. So
I keep you around.
I had a chat with the general manager today, and I might be getting stepped up the rung to actually like full manager probably sometime in the near future, maybe, because I'm just
So go supervisor then manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or unless they have like an assistant manager position, because since we're like just opening, it's like we have the GM, the assistant GM, who's in charge of payroll and such, and then we only have 2 actual managers, one for the kitchen and then one for everybody else, and that's it. And they're all, I'm just kind of like I'm clocking in just a little bit few hours than they are, because they're all pulling doubles, open to close, and then after we're closed, meetings after that. So, but it's been fun. This is like my first non-double that I've worked in a little bit, just because I told them absolutely under no circumstances am I working Wednesday nights. No, I won't do it. Can't do it.
Nights.
No Wednesday nights.
Pre-planned stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. So I am here, which unfortunately means I've not played the PTR. It came out yesterday. All the patch notes came out and a whole lot of other types of stuff, and I was like 6 hours behind everybody else. And by the time I got home, I even missed the Heroes Power Hour yesterday. It was my first time not being on that show since I joined the show, and it was just one of those. I got home, I pulled up the stream to go through and watch it, and then fell asleep. So I'm sorry to Jimmy, Charlie, JR, and Brian over there that I failed you. I'm so sorry.
Failed you so much.
I'll make it up. I'll make it up to you, definitely, somehow, some way.
Yeah, it's hard though. Like spoiler alert, PTR was announced yesterday. But like. And I was trying to figure that out because I actually went to go look at the truck last night that I was purchasing, and so I didn't get home last night until like 9 or 10, and I wasn't going to be able to get on last night. So I was like, hopefully I can get on tonight. So I logged on immediately when I got home from work to like hopefully get in at least to mess around just like for 30 minutes or so before the show starts. But I did get in. I played for about 30-45 minutes, so yeah.
Cool. And that that is one of those interesting things that it's PTR, huge patch from some of the initial reports coming in just the last day. Now this is, it seems like, Reaper of Souls came out, greatest edition ever. This has made Diablo 3 like actually feel like a Diablo game. It's perfect. Patch 2.1, oh my gosh, this is like a mini expansion. It's so amazing. Patch 2.2, no, this is a real mini expansion. This is the greatest content update ever. And then now here we are, patch 2.3, and this is just like, it blows everything else out of the water from what
I feel
I'm
like
hearing.
It does, and I feel like we do say that every single time, but like, we got to give the team, like the Blizzard team, credit, because I mean they were silent for so long, but they're clearly, now that we see it, is a good reason for it. So I think in the future, like, we need to remember these things, and I easily forget it. That I'm like, come on, just give us like talk about something, it's like give us some sort of news.
Yeah, give us something, anything.
Yeah, but like they were quiet for a while for a reason. I'm pumped. Yeah, this is a big patch, and and I told Nineball tonight, I was like, I don't know if I feel like even prepared enough for this episode, because there's so much stuff to talk about. Like there's just so much happening, and yeah, it's crazy. It's exciting.
Yeah. and with the new PTR comes a new round of, I guess, PTR problems. They
Oh
they have
yes.
they've got the 2000% legendary drop rate buff going live, so you can go in, try and farm up all of the new set items, all the new non-set items and such. So you can go test out how the sets work. The buff normally they keep up for a couple weeks, just at the beginning, kind of get people in there, grabbing some of the items, and then dropping it back down so people can actually test drop rates. How does Torment 10 feel compared to
Yeah.
Torment 6? Is the rewards comparative to the difficulty, yada yada yada. But as always, we were just talking about this on the last episode. What our expectations were. A lot of people are going through reporting 2 hour queues, 6 hour queues, 8 hour
Yeah.
queues. Yesterday, I remember seeing someone mentioning that their queue time actually was just kept going up and up and up. It started, it's like
Yeah.
I have a 6 hour, now it's 12, now it's 36 hours is what the estimated time is. I hope
I
that they
saw
did
that.
not stay in queue that entire time, and in
Maybe they're
fact
still there.
got in. Yeah, they would still be there. But yeah, it's
Yes.
it's just one of those ones. You have to weigh the costs of being able to get people on and testing, and being like justifying going and purchasing an additional server to actually get that up and running to accommodate
Yeah.
something you might have up for, maybe, well, not even half a year, third of the year. That's just going to be sitting there wasting time otherwise. I don't know. Well, we'll
Yep.
see. You can definitely tell that there's the PTR is always slammed. I don't really remember 2.1 being this bad. Like it still had its queues, but 2.1.2 and 2.2 were both just, while that legendary drop rate was up, crazy. If you wanted to go through and log into the game, obviously it's like really bad right now because the PTR just came out. By a week or two from now, it'll die down. But even then, you still let me go through, log on to the PTR, walk away, come back in 15 minutes to actually wait to get into a game.
Yep. Yeah, that's I logged on uh tonight, uh, I don't know, like 6 o'clock maybe, and it gave me a 4 hour queue. I was like, well, I'm not getting in before the show tonight. Um, I stayed at 4 hours, 4 hours 6 minutes for about 30 minutes, and then it dropped down to 50 minutes for about 5 minutes, and then I was in.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's not too bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have to wait that long. So I'm not seeing the queues that everybody else must be. Um, but like you said, I feel like I've seen a lot of negative backlash because of these queue wait times. And like you said, it's important for us to remember that. Um, I mean, it is a cost thing. Like, I mean, when these servers aren't being used on the PTR, well, like, I mean, they're being used like internal test purposes, correct? Uh,
I that I'm actually not sure. I
okay.
think they have a separate server that runs the internal, like the internal builds as
Okay.
well as the internal stuff for Blizzard. Um, I don't think that's shared on the same set of hardware that they run the
Gotcha.
public PTRs on, because if they were, the like I guess a brief description of how data mining works. When the people that are good at this, like your Diablo fans, your MMO champion, they know how to communicate with the PTR servers. So they can see when new information is uploaded to it that gets ready to be pushed out to the clients. That's why they can get the data mine stuff a day or two, sometimes a little bit longer than that, depending upon what Blizzard's schedule is, and see everything before we ever even get prompted for the PTR update, because they're actually going and looking at the server itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's we need to remember that the PTR is truly for testing, not for as many people to get in and find all their items as they possibly can. Because there's a lot of mad people right now.
Hmm.
Um, like, I mean, if if Blizzard has their capacity set in these servers and it's constantly like at that capacity and that's the capacity that they need to test, why would they why would they upgrade that? That wouldn't make any sense for them. I mean, it is a business, and the PTR is for testing, not for enjoying the game, I guess. I mean, it's fun. It's fun when you're in there, but
Yeah,
um,
I mean, a lot of that, I guess, even for the people that don't go and report bugs, the people that don't submit feedback or talk about it on the forums, that just go in and play with a 2,000% legendary buff chance, it still gives Blizzard data and information because
exactly.
they aggregate so much information from people just logging on and playing. How much time did you spend in games? You know, obviously in this point in the PTR of queues, people are going to stay in a game much longer than they were. So it's kind of giving them better information since they want people to stay in the game longer anyways. People are like kind of being forced into testing these new mechanics with the bounties and the increased cash drops, things of that nature. So I guess that's kind of like a little psychology experiment. With
I feel psyched out right
yeah,
now.
unintentional experiment, I guess. But
Yeah.
just they see how people play, how much time do you spend in rifts or doing bounties, the amount of hours played on the different classes, what you're copying over, what you're trying out. So they do get information from that, and obviously the conversations that come from the PTR when you have the big theory crafters going in there and testing it out and seeing what does what. But you'll never be able to fully test something because if you looked at the 2.2 PTR, going back to Demon Hunters, Unhallowed Essence was like this is the best set that there is. Nats can't even compete. So there was just like this kind of assumption Nats just can't compete because it requires uh, it requires your gear to be so perfect to even kind of like be borderline even with Unhallowed Essence. What was the point? So it didn't get any testing really on the PTR. People just didn't play it. And then once it actually got live, and what was it, a couple weeks in, people were actually starting to play around with it because they had
Yep.
better gear, going through testing it out, and well, you can look at the leaderboards to see how that one ended.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to test all those little nuances. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, good old PTR, right?
Yeah, always, always. But speaking of going through and speaking of the PTR, shall we shall we talk
Let's
about some of the changes?
let's talk some of the changes.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
do it.
let's do it. Okay.
We're gonna dive in.
Okay. You want to take classes first?
All right. All right.
Okay. All right.
So,
Which
um,
which class would you like to pick? That is not the Demon
well,
Hunter.
that is not the demon hunter. So we could just start from the top of the list at barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but first of all, so they have just in regards to the classes, just as a whole, there's quite a few skills now that are able to be assigned a left mouse button, and for a lot of people, that's a really big deal. I know.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need to go through all of the individual ones that are assignable, but it's pretty exciting. So yeah, so I can start with the barbarian. So active skills have changed for the barbarian. So battle rage, the skill is the rune is now excuse me, ferocity, the skill rune has been redesigned and is now increases movement speed by 10%. Cleave, the rune scattering blast now knocks back enemies up into the air instead of backwards 10 yards. And enemies that no longer knock back, sorry, the enemies that land no longer knock other enemies back. The Frenzy skill rune Vanguard, or sorry, Frenzy, the rune Vanguard. I'll get this right soon. I
You're doing a
promise.
great job. Keep it up. Keep going.
It now grants 5% movement speed per stack of Frenzy. Leap now breaks roots when it's cast. So if you're rooted in the ground by some sort of crowd control, you can break that when you cast Leap. Um, Under Warcry, the rune Veterans Warning, the dodge chance is just increased. And then with passive skills, the No Escape now increases damage bonus, and then the maximum distance has been reduced. So that's basically what's happened for the barbarian. Kind of zipped through that.
Yeah, doing good. We've got a couple changes. I can knock out the next two since I'm kind of interested in playing a Crusader.
Okay.
Right now, I don't think that this will be the extent of the changes for the Crusader. Right now they just changed a single rune for Blessed Hammer and a single rune for Judgment. I think we'll probably see some more tweaking for those skills as well as Falling Sword coming in future updates. So by all means, like any of these changes that we go through, it's far from final. This is
Yep.
just the first wave of PTR. There's going to be other, like little changes and adjustments that they'll be going and making through the life of this PTR, and it's going to be a long one.
Yes.
Minimum expectation is like 2 months. Um, Blessed Hammer, they changed Icebound Hammer. They buffed the amount of damage that it does, as well as the amount of damage that it does when it explodes. But they did reduce the freeze duration, which I guess we'll talk about. This kind of goes into a lot of the changes that they're making to CC to get rid of the permanent CC. But also one of the biggest ones is that when the Icebound Hammer does explode, it doesn't continue on its path; it's just gone. So some interesting changes, the buffing the damage, but changing mechanically how the hammer itself works. And then for Judgment, they removed the conversion rune, and it was replaced with Debilitate. Debilitate makes it so that way it increases the amount of damage that any enemies that get judged. It decreases the amount of damage that enemies do while they're kind of like for a few seconds after they're affected by the judgment itself. So it's before, if there is an enemy below 25% health, there would be a 20% chance that they would be converted into kind of a little small pet character that would go through and attack for 100% weapon damage for a few seconds afterwards. So they just completely got rid of that, and they just now made it as kind of like an AOE damage reduction. We got a couple changes over here for the Demon Hunter. Spike Trap's been reworked for like the 100th time. They reduced the arming time, they reduced the rearming time, so that way it doesn't have as big of a delay feeling to it. They increased the damage on a bunch of the runes, like Echoing Blast. Damage was increased. The enemies hit frozen for 3 seconds. While they're frozen, they take 20% increased damage. That really meshes well with Call a Week. And also, uh, I think, I'm not sure, I haven't tested it in the game itself, but from the wording, it seems as if anyone does 20% increased damage, so that'd be kind of a party buff. Lightning Rod, they increase the trigger range, so enemies don't have to get as close to it. It also now, whenever one activates, it will shoot arcs of lightning to the other traps, and anything that's caught in the path of those little lightning arcs will take damage. Um, Long Fuse, that it now does even more damage, and will also do a 2-second stun. Scatter now has the rearming time is half a second, so it's just going to go boom really quick. And then Sticky Trap, damage was increased, arming time reduced, but the range was also reduced a little bit. So even though it does more damage, it's going to hit fewer enemies. They changed Hot Pursuit, so that way instead of giving as far as the passive, Hot Pursuit is when you deal damage to an enemy, it gives you a speed boost. It now will last 4 seconds instead of 2. They added in a new passive called Leech, which you just gain a flat amount of life on hit, and then it increases based on the amount of your life per kill, which is pretty interesting. So it converts your life per kill stat into life on hit at a 75% ratio. So if you have that passive equipped and you have 1,000 life per kill, it gives you 750 life on hit. Kind of interesting. I don't know if that's intended or is going to be changed, but that makes life on kill an actual kind of like useful stat. I know it's great for farming lower difficulties, but when you're pressing through higher end rifts, it's not that great. And then finally, numbing traps, the duration of the effect of like the slow whenever they're hit by the traps, or I should say, it's the damage reduction that they have from the traps is increased from 3 to 5 seconds. So anything that you hit with your Fan of Knives, Spike Trap, Caltrops, grenades, and such will now have the 25% reduced damage for a longer point in time.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is pretty good. A lot of spike trap changes for the demon hunter. So it's exciting. Trying to
Yeah.
get the spike trap and get played a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take the monk.
All you, man. Why don't you take the
I'll
Witch
take.
Doctor while you're at it?
I will do both. Even though they're a witch doctor, it's like a new class. Um, all right, so monk, they've actually only got one change right now, in effect for the patch notes. The dashing strike now, all it does now is it breaks root when it's cast. So just like earlier with the barbarian, if they're CC'd somehow, then they now, if they cast dashing strike, they break out of that. So as of now, that's the only change to the monk. So monk, they must have felt it was in a pretty good spot. Witch Doctor, on the other hand, has a massive amount of changes. Um, so I'm just going to go through these. Let's do it. So the skill Acid Cloud, the Corpse Bomb now just has a damage boost from what it was from 525, and now it's 620% weapon damage. Corpse Spiders.
I will say that while leveling a Witch Doctor, Corpse Bomb is one of my favorite skills, and so
You
seeing
like
that
Corpse
change,
Bomb?
yeah, yeah.
See,
When I'm
Firebat is
not
my favorite.
when I'm not getting power leveled, Corpse Bomb is one of my favorite ones.
Firebats for some reason was always my favorite. I felt like I could just like mow the enemy down, but
Mm-hmm.
which they're getting some changes too, so we'll get there. Um, so corpse spiders, the blazing spiders now return 3 mana on hit. The rune widowmakers now increases total damage to 700% weapon damage. So a little bit of boost to the corpse spiders. Firebats, the skill firebats. Now the cloud of bats now has a damage increase. Their radius is increased from 8 to 12 yards. Plague bats, the final damage has been increased to 660 weapon damage. Vampire bats, that rune damage type has changed from fire to physical.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be makes for some interesting builds. Yeah, so that's all the changes for fire bats. Fire bomb, the skill, the rune ghost bomb has now changed from fire to cold damage. That's it for fire bomb. Hex, so it now has. I'm kind of interested in seeing these. So it now has an animation that summons the shaman or toad at your cursor location. The shaman now stands in the location where it was summoned. So just wherever you point your mouse, basically where it summons.
Mm-hmm.
And then the shaman's cast range increases to 50 yards.
Which is going to take up the majority of the screen. Before it was only
Yeah.
25, and it was very small area. Now I think like from your character to the edge of the screen, going below is like 50 yards, and going above is 80, due to the isometric view. So it will take up a very large portion of the screen now.
Yeah, so that'll be pretty cool to see. Their damage bonus increases to 15%. Angry Chicken rune from Hex. So that damage type has changed from from physical to poison. The rune Hedge Magic has changed from physical to cold, and then Jinx has changed from physical to poison. And then Jinx also has a damage bonus increase. So it was at 10%, and now it's at 30%. Toad of Hugeness, which I'm kind of excited to see because it does tie to the new Witch Doctor set. Spoiler alert. So it's been redesigned. So every second for 5 seconds, the toad pulls the furthest enemy within 45 yards, swallows him for half of a second, and then spits him back out, leaving the enemy basically debuffed. And then he deals 750% weapon damage over 5 seconds, and then increases damage taken by 25%. So
Mhm.
there's a lot going on with that skill, and I'm interested to see how they phrase all that in
Yeah,
a
so
in a
it's
concise manner.
yeah, it's nice because that one it's going to you can put like if you only have a couple enemies that you're fighting, you can kind of put the toad on the edge of the screen, and it's going to go, pick them away from you, pull them back to the toad, and spit them back out. And if there's only like
Yeah,
one enemy, it's just going to keep pulling that guy back in for those 5 seconds and spitting him back out, so he can't get back to you and try to ruin your day.
yeah, and that'd be pretty sweet. Uh, yeah, I look forward to seeing that how that works out,
Hmm.
and how that could be usable if you're killing enemies quickly. Um, yeah, so we'll see. So the rune unstable form, the weapon damage is increased there. And then the skill mass confusion. So it's had quite a few rune changes. So the rune devolution chance to summon zombie dogs is increased up to 100%, and so that was at 30%. Now it's at 100. The rune mass hallucination that has an increased weapon damage. The rune mass hysteria has a maximum number of enemies that are stunned is now been taken to 10, and it was at 6 before.
Hmm.
Um, and then so I'm kind of interested to see that as well, because I wasn't an impression that it was going to be like ZDPS kind of being taken away, but it'd
But
be interesting to.
even though it's stunning like more enemies, it won't really matter.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Just with the new changes to like the CC reduction,
Oh,
and
that's true. Yeah, it's not
if
going to
it's
be.
if it's not enough, they'll make changes to adjust that. But spoilers, we're not talking about that yet. Not talking about that
Oh,
yet.
yep, yep, yep. Stop talking about that.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the unstable rune, the unstable realm rune has a reduced cooldown that was at 45 seconds and now it's at 30 seconds. So that's it for mass confusion. Plague of toads. So uh, piercing toads, the rune piercing toads, that has changed from poison damage to physical damage. And then the toad affinity rune has changed from poison to cold damage. I'm I- I'm curious to see why they have changed all these different damage types. I'm interested to see how these are going to work out with the builds within. You know,
Yeah,
I,
there's a bunch of different ones they're wanting to go and do if they wanting to change like certain play styles, or they're noticing that certain skills might be used more than others when they're doing certain damage types, or trying to give certain
other damage
builds, yeah,
types.
certain builds that rely on a particular damage a little bit more of a boost. They'll change some of those base skills. Plague of
Yeah,
Toads is always popular. It used to be because if it's proc coefficient, which got changed, but still, it's a nice skill. So they'll make
yeah.
little tweaks here and there, and that's
But
one of those ones where I was thinking like with the Crusader, I'd probably expect Falling Sword to get a little bit more differentiation in its elemental types, because right now I think it's like got two lightnings, one holy, and then everything else is physical.
yeah, yeah. I'm just interested to see like their reasoning behind some of these though, like just like why certain ones were changed to cold, or you know um if they were trying to, I guess if you dove deep into it, you could probably figure out the reasoning yourself. But yeah, but I don't know. It's interesting. So anyway, Soul Harvest. Now you get additional stacks. Or sorry, so additional stacks of Soul Harvest will no longer take away all the other existing stacks, and then they'll be added to them instead. So anything over 5, then we'll replace the stack with the shortest remaining duration. And then the rune Soul to Waste has been redesigned and now grants 5% movement speed per stack of Soul Harvest that you have up. So Wall of Zombies has been completely removed and changed over to Wall of Death. And so this is also going to kind of go along with the new Witch Doctor set as well. So Wall of Death, what it does is it raises a wall of zombies. So, yeah.
You thought we changed it.
Yeah,
Surprise!
but we didn't really. So it's 28 yards wide, comes up from the ground, and it basically just blocks enemies and attacks them for 800% weapon damage. And it's basically just physical weapon damage over 6 seconds. The rune Communing with Spirits. So this is one of the new runes. It summons a 15-yard radius spectral ring that deals 1400% weapon damage as cold over 6 seconds, and then chills all enemies who walk through the wall by 60%, and then also reduces their damage by 20% as well. There's a firewall, and that basically summons a firewall that's a little bit wider than the original for 8 seconds, and it burns enemies over 4 seconds for 1,000 weapon damage. The Wall of Zombies is now a skill rune rather than a skill. And basically it just increases the width of the zombies to 50 yards, and then it knocks them all back behind the wall. And then there's a rune, Ring of Poison. So Ring of Poison summons 15, it's a 15-yard radius ring for 5 seconds, and it poisons nearby enemies for 1,200% weapon damage as poison over 8 seconds. And then the last rune for Wall of Death is Surrounded by Death, and basically what it does is it just raises a circle of zombies from the ground, and then it just traps the nearby enemies for 1,000% weapon damage as physical over 4 seconds. So that's it for that skill. Zombie Charger, the skill rune Explosive Beast has been changed, has an increased weapon damage to 580%, and then the explosion radius has increased from 9 to 12 yards. The rune Lumbering Cold has increased to 200% weapon damage, and then the rune Zombie Bears has increased to 400% weapon damage.
Good old zombie bears.
Good
That
old
8% damage increase.
It's a big increase. Yeah, you wonder what they were like. Let's just round this out.
Pretty much.
So Lumbering Cold was 4%.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's kind of funny. So they were like, let's get that out of the way. So, all right. So down to passive skills. So passive skills, Bad Medicine. The damage reduction has increased 25%, and then the duration has increased to 5 seconds. Blood Ritual, the mana cost taken from life increased from 10% to 20%. And then Physical Attunement has been removed and replaced with Swampland Attunement. And basically what that does is it just gives you and your pets 120 resistance to physical, poison, fire, and cold per enemy within 20 yards. So that could get kind of interesting with dense mobs and all that good stuff. Spiritual Attunement, the mana regeneration has increased from 1% to 3% per second. So that is all of the skills that have been changed. There are a few bug fixes, but yeah, so like they fixed an issue. Literally, I'm reading these right now because I haven't read these yet.
So bad.
But, what's that?
So bad.
So bad. Yeah. So they the reapplication, it prevented the reapplication of Haunt Poison Spirit from applying the 20% damage taken buff. Yeah. I gotta think about that. Okay. All right. Yeah. So and then they fixed an issue that prevented fetishes that were summoned by the Gidbin. It prevented them from counting towards the Zunamasa's Haunt bonus. So they fixed that issue, and then they also fixed the fire bats, hungry bats, and it was dealing half the listed damage. So they fixed that. So that is all the Witch Doctor changes. So get in there and test Witch Doctor because I think they need some testing.
Ever so slightly. Ever
Yeah.
so slightly.
So I think these will be some interesting changes coming up with the. Um, I don't want to get too far ahead, but there's a new set, and then there's also another set that's changing, and so it'll be interesting to see these changes and how they interact with these new set bonuses.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I mean, that's going to be one of the big things for the Helltooth set with the redesigned Wall of Death. Seeing how that plays out. Just a lot of damage increases all across the board there, as well as just functionality. A lot of them will now do like the. I think what is it? A lot of them will now cause a circle, or
mhm.
just increase the overall size. And with the hopefully with the redesigned Helltooth set, it might be a little bit interesting. We'll go through and check that one out.
Yep.
Moving on to some of the wizard skills, they did some like little fundamental changes for Archon. The Arcane Strike, which is like the melee ability, it no longer has a knockback effect. I mean, part of that comes with some of the changes that they're making to
Yeah.
CC, but that's also like one of your best. It was one of your best damage outputs while in Archon form, and not having a knockback now just means that you can not have to worry about repositioning, and they're all going to stand there, and you can just go through and pound them into the ground. Arcane Blast, which did a pretty decent amount of damage, but had a ridiculous cooldown to it. That's been removed, so you can spam that for AOE around your character if you want to. And then for the slow time rune, now makes it, in addition to being able to pop the slow time bubbles, the arcane blast and arcane strike abilities will freeze the enemy for a brief period of time. They also redesigned Unstable Anomaly. Now, when you receive fatal damage, you will gain a shield equal to 300% of your maximum life for 5 seconds, and you'll also release a shockwave that knocks everything back and stuns them for 3 seconds. And the effect can occur still every 60 seconds, which is what it was before. So now, instead of just being healed up to 45% of your life and being like good luck, you have a little bit more that you can do to try and to survive. And I'm sure hardcore wizards everywhere are going ape shit over this one.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's gonna have some very interesting effects for how wizards play. I'll be interested to see how that's received in general through the wizard community, because I know even just going through with the high end greater rifts, a lot of people might be working in like a little cheat death passive just because it saves you so much time.
Mm-hmm.
When each of your deaths after a certain point costs you 30 seconds from the rift, having that one proc go off can be the difference between making or breaking a rift. So
Yep.
that kind of rounds it out for the wizard skill, or I guess I should say all class skills.
Yep.
But
It
oh
does. So
yeah, a lot of interesting changes. I definitely like a lot of the things that we're seeing in there.
yeah, I do too.
And a lot of these changes also go back into the sets, which we'll be getting into as we cover items here in a second. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. And again, this isn't the final list. I have a really strong feeling that we'll be seeing a lot more changes, particularly to like Falling Sword and Blessed Hammer with
Mm-hmm.
with that new set. Expect to see maybe some damage tweaks or functionality tweaks, and definitely I think Falling Sword could use a little bit of love with its which damage types it deals. I think it's still stacked a little bit too heavily towards physical, and I would like to see at least more lightning runes come out of that one. But that's
That'd
my
be
personal
interesting.
opinion. Yeah, we'll
That would
we'll
be
go through and check
interesting,
it out.
especially with falling sword. It's gonna be a prominent skill coming up with the new set.
Yeah,
So
if you just want to, if we, I guess I can save that for going down when we see for the actual set changes themselves. Um, but
yes.
yeah. let's go through and take a look at some of the item changes that we've got up because
Do it.
we've got Azure Wrath, the aura, the damage aura that it would go and deal to enemies now has been buffed. It was 30 to 40% weapon damage. It's now 500 to 650 weapon damage per second. Now instead of only affecting undead, also affects demons, and it now will also knock enemies into the air instead of knocking them back. So it'll be like that little brief stun because they get knocked up instead of just being continually like pushed back out of the effect of the skill or away from you as you're trying to run towards them to kill them. The Fulminator, that one, the lightning rod damage was increased. They like more than doubled the damage per second, and it will always roll with attack speed. Um, or sorry, it will now always, they're removing the attack speed buff and replacing it, so it will always roll a primary stat. So it's always going to roll, strength, dex, int, instead of always rolling the attack speed. Which for a lot of builds, I think most builds, it's just not wanted. No one really wants attack speed. I know there's some builds, um, Kreider shot, Unhallowed Essence, they like attack speed. Well, most other ones don't really care too much. It's kind of like artificial damage increase on your character.
Used to be such a big skill, or
It was
such a big.
it was so huge they had to nerf it,
Yeah,
and
I
then they
know
came back out and later were like, yeah, we kind of regret nerfing it so quickly and
it.
not giving it time to pan out because it really ended up being not as big as what people thought it would be.
Goodbye attack speed.
Yep. And we got the Hellfire Amulet. Now we'll always roll a guaranteed slot.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Socket.
Socket. Yep. Socket, slot. People
Yeah.
know. Well, people know what I mean.
Clam chat.
Yes. Oh, no. No, not starting that again. Nipping that one right now.
You can't. You
Yeah.
can't control it.
The Stone of Jordan now will always roll with a plus maximum resource as a secondary stat for all classes, that's pretty interesting. I don't know if that will make much of a difference. I mean, a lot of people like the Stone of Jordan just because of the sheer damage increase that it gives. Be interesting to see how that plays out. If it will that make people want it even more? Will people not really care? I almost feel as if you know there's builds that already have something like Reaper's Wraps or something else built into their build, so they don't really care about the resource too much. Because they have an easy, efficient way to go through and refill it very quickly. And then you have other ones like a Whirlwind Barbarian, which they just don't care about resources, period.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think it's really build dependent, right? I mean, you have the unhallowed essence unhallowed essence builds that do care about that, but other than that, like, yeah, it just kind of depends on the build, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I guess it doesn't hurt that it's in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's nice. It's definitely nice.
Yeah.
Well, that I wonder if there'll be certain people that will kind of like frown on that just because now you have if that's a guaranteed secondary stat, you have one less chance to roll like physical resistance on the item.
Is it guaranteed?
Yeah, it will always roll maximum resource as a second.
Oh, see, I misread that. I thought it was rolling as a possibility.
It they I don't know. The way
Once
that
again,
I'm reading it
rolls.
is just that it's always going to roll with the maximum resource as a secondary stat because that's what it was
I could see
before
that.
Reaper.
Yeah, that would make sense then. All right, so I might change my opinion that I don't know if I like that.
Okay, well then. And now the change that most people are all waiting for. Thorns of the Invoker will now only drop for Crusaders.
Yay!
So they're now when you go through and you pick up, you only have Blackthorns to be disappointed by. You won't have that disappointment of also going through and it's like, oh, I picked up Invokers, great. Now that is relegated only to Crusaders.
Green Helm.
For
Oh
now,
man, likely
yeah, for now, I don't know
Invokers.
because we might, even though there's nothing on it yet. This is just the beginning of the PTR. They might be
It
reworking
is
Invokers.
because they do not currently have a second Crusader set that they have changed.
Mm-hmm. John Yang or not, sorry, John Yang. Wyatt Chang was talking about. I'm tired. Forgive me. Was going and talking about wanting to go and do a redesign on the Invoker set. So we'll have to go through and see how that might play out. I
Uh,
love the comments in chat. Just the fact that Invokers will only drop for Crusaders. Crusader nerf confirmed.
yep, there it is. That's all
Beautiful.
it. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Um,
I would love to see this set be useful. So after we see all these drops, that is invokers, finally they could be useful.
maybe
So
we might.
we'll see.
Yeah. Um, Jumping into some of these here. You want to take Barbarian?
Sure. So Barbarian has the bracers of destruction are new. They are new bracers, and so what they do basically is the seismic slam deals 300 to 400% increased damage to basically the two first enemies that it hits. So it sounds like it's just gonna like the two first enemies. Seismic slam is gonna do some work. That I don't know. It doesn't sound like a ton of a boot, like a huge boost. But I don't know, I
I mean,
guess
that'll be nice at least for like single target DPS.
yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's I mean it's gonna do it to the first two enemies. So yeah, single target. There it is. But yeah, okay. So another new set of another new legendary bracers are the bracers of the first men. Um, basically, when the hammer of ancients hits an enemy, uh, you gain 75 to 100% increased attack speed for 3 seconds. So maybe attack speed could come back and play. So we'll see. I don't know. Uh, do you say this fjord?
Fjord. Yep. That
Fjord,
is
fjord,
that is a word I know how to pronounce.
like Howling Fjord from World of Warcraft, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there it is. So Fjord Cutter has been changed, and basically the chilling aura proc chance has increased from 20 to 30%, and it now has 100% chance to proc. Um, Fury of Ancients is new legendary shoulders. Basically, the Call of Ancients they gain the effect of the Ancient's Fury rune. So that's that is exciting. I can't think of off the top of my head what the Ancient's Fury is, but it sounds really cool. I haven't played Barb in so long, but I'm looking
So
it up really fast. But um, yeah, so Ancient's Fury gains 4 Fury every time Ancient deals damage. So
huh.
there it
as
is.
as if Barb's had any issues with
Yeah,
Fury in the first place.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're just gonna top it off as it's already full.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will be interested in seeing what this does for barbarians. Are they actually going to go through and give them some I guess because um the Immortal King set is kind of like that generic set, kind of like a cons is. It is just like a couple of these legendaries. Would the Braces of the First Men combined with the other thing be enough to like imagine having infinite fury and being able to go through and just slam everything with Hammer of the Ancients?
mhm.
Is that enough to make a build out of it? Just those couple items? Is it? Don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
I'll be looking forward to seeing that. Just
Hmm.
how that works all in general.
Yeah,
So Crusader time.
Crusader time. We've got
Let's
a
do it.
couple new things in there. You've got Gabrielle's Van braces, some new bracers, going to support the new set, which we'll be talking about in just a second. If your Blessed Hammer hits 3 or less enemies, it will have 75 to 100% of its wrath cost refunded. So that's going to be one of those, you've got this interesting way of going and doing, like kind of like a single target DPS increase, because you can spam infinitely. Even if it's not just single target, if there's only like 10 enemies on the screen, the chances of you hitting more than 3 of them with even a properly positioned hammer is kind of low with them all running around. But on top of that, you have the Guard of Johanna, which is the name of the Crusader in Heroes of the Storm, which is a nice little thing. They also have some pretty interesting little flavor text on some of the items, which kind of like hints at Johanna the Crusader and Vala the Demon Hunter. I'm going on a tangent right now, but there's some nice little flavor text for some of these items for Johanna and Vala that go through and show that they've been sucked out of Diablo and they're in the Nexus right now, that they don't exist. It's like I believe it was the next item, the flail, Johanna's argument, that it mentions that this was her favorite weapon, but now she's disappeared and this is the only thing left of her. So it's some little interesting little lore tidbits going on there.
Gosh.
But yeah, so you've got the bracer, which reduces the wrath cost, and now the shield is the same thing. The first 3 enemies hit will take 250% increased damage from Blessed Hammer, kind of giving it that like oomph of the amount of damage that it can put out. Continuing on the bandwagon, Johanna's argument increases your attack speed, or not your attack speed, but it increases the attack speed of Blessed Hammer by 100%. So that's going to, drop the amount of time that it takes to cast each individual Blessed Hammer. So it's just like going through, getting a high level hammered in, and then, throwing on like, what is it, a Spectral Edge, just so that way you have that, or a Wizard Spike, with a 50% increased cast rate. I'm just going to go over here and just going to be pumping out those hammers, just, going through the old hammered in, like raising the roof thing with the
so
single arm
for
and the
this.
hair. Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun because this all goes and ties into, of course, the new set, Seeker of the Light. Hammered in is back, baby.
Yeah, I feel this right here, like this set and these new items might actually make me main a Crusader this next season. Oh man, such nostalgia from Diablo 2. I'm ready.
Mm-hmm. This is one of those things that is just like, I don't know. Some of the monk changes just make it look as if monk is just going to be like beating everything.
Yeah.
But just the fact that it's like hammered in and it might be viable.
It's so fun. It's fun.
It's like, I don't know. The only thing that the set bonuses were missing is just something to like your Laws of Hope or Laws of Valor that gives like a damage bonus. Besides, obviously, the damage bonus that it already gives. Because that was just the other thing about like the hammered in, is you'd always be running concentration, which was a huge damage boost for your entire party. But yeah, I'm not complaining. We're getting something cool. So the new Seeker of Light. Every time that you use Blessed Hammer, as long as the hammer hits an enemy, it will reduce the cooldown of Falling Sword in Provoke by 1 second. 4-piece set bonus is after using Falling Sword, you take 50% less damage for 8 seconds. So that's kind of like the tie-in there. All the sets kind of have like an offensive and a defensive ability baked into it. That's your defensive. So it's like your Blessed Hammer is going out, it's reducing the cooldown of Falling Sword, and then every time that you use Falling Sword, you have that window where you're going to be taking a lot less damage. And if you can get that, the cooldown on Falling Sword down to 8 seconds, you're just always taking 50% less damage. And then finally, the 6-piece bonus is it increases the damage of Blessed Hammer by 750% and Falling Sword by 250%. So combine that with a bunch of the other ones, it's like the Blessed Hammer damage increased by 250%, 750%, attack speed increased by 100%, refunds your wrath cost of it, practically making it free if it only hits a couple enemies. Hammers are flying. Hammers everywhere. You get a hammer. You get a hammer. I'm just going to go through.
Hammer to the face.
I'm going to make a Crusader, name her Oprah, and just throw hammers everywhere at everybody. Because everybody is going to be getting a hammer with this build.
Or Bob Vila.
Yeah, or Bob
Tim
Vila.
Taylor.
There you go. Yeah, I like it. I knew where you were going with that. Yeah, so I'm pretty psyched to actually go
Yeah,
in there and start doing a little bit of testing with the Crusader. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
it does.
Lot
It
of
does
fun.
sound like a lot of fun. At this point, I don't often test like new like full sets and then try to like tweak them in the PTR, but this I might actually
Hmm.
put together. I mean, it fits together like a puzzle anyway. Like this is like they're not like beating around the bush. Like these are going to be the best items for you,
Hmm.
like with this build. So yeah, we'll try to try it out.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Well,
well
there's
I'll take Demon
I
Hunter.
want to take Demon
Oh,
Hunter. I
you
want to take
take
Demon
Demon
because
Hunter. You take
I've
Demon
got a
Hunter.
couple things to talk about
All
when it
right.
comes to these changes.
Okay.
Um, so with the Demon Hunter, they're introducing a belt, bracers, and bow, and the belt and bracers are buffing your hatred generators. The belt increases their attack speed and makes it so that way they do increased damage. The bracers makes it so that way you take less damage after you use a hatred generator for a few seconds. And then the bow makes it so that way it's 40% increased attack speed when using multi-shot, and also will roll with a ridiculous amount of resource cost reduction to, like 30 to 40%. So you're looking at, almost with just that one item, almost having the resource cost of multi-shot. And I can tell you right now that this is probably coming through. You have Unhallowed Essence, which the set was designed to be the multi-shot build. And what does it become? Because of the Kreider shot in the set bonus giving the buff to um, Elemental Arrow when you had a Kreider shot equipped, the Unhallowed Essence is just now like the Marauder set before it. It's just ball lightning is what that
Yep.
build has become. So I will be very interested in going and checking and seeing if this new belt and bracers actually benefit Element Arrow with a Kreider shot equipped. Because
I would love that because I'll be
you know,
honest and say I don't particularly like the ball lightning build,
yeah,
but you feel like you kind
I
of have to play it.
I have absolutely nothing against ball lightning, but I can see where the developers are coming from. Instead of going through and directly nerfing it and saying, oh, we didn't intend this. We want you using multi-shot, so we're going to take
Hmm.
the Kreider shot bonus away from Unhallowed Essence. We're introducing new items so that way, and just not have Elemental Arrow baked into them, in order to get you towards using these other ones. We want you to use multi-shot. We want you to actually use like entangling shot or some other generator, in there, so that way you could get, you don't feel gimped going between multi-shot and then focus, or something along those lines. Um, but then again, like I mentioned earlier, Unhallowed Essence is kind of was left in the dust compared to Nats. This could also be their way of trying to make a little bit more of a parity between the sets and, I guess, sorry, Marauders. So that's kind of interesting. I would like to hear more from the developers to these three new Demon Hunter items that are getting added in. What is the thinking behind adding these in? Are you trying to buff like that multi-shot, that the original intention of the gameplay of um, Unhallowed Essence of going back and forth between an actual generator and multi-shot? Are you trying to make that gameplay a little bit seamless instead of having like these huge dips in your damage with the way that that build actually worked? Or is this trying to just changes, kind of almost intended to like kind of indirectly buff ball lightning to make it more competitive with Nats?
Hmm.
So that's some of my interesting ones, or that's my thoughts on it. But I will. Up and I'm just tabbing back over into chat, and Ugsy is going through and saying that the new belt end bracers do not work with Kreider Shot Slowball right now after he tested it. It only works with the primary hatred generators. So there you
Oh,
go.
there it is.
Yeah, so there it is. We'll have to see if that makes it, if that makes that build better than Ball Lightning. I'll have to wait and see. Check that one out.
Nice.
And I will now give the floor back up and let you go and talk about Monk for a little bit there.
All right, let's do it. I'm gonna kind of zip through these so we can, because we still have a lot of these
Oh
new items
yes.
to talk about, and we have a lot to talk about still. So I'm gonna zip through them. So sorry if I don't get into much detail, guys. Plus, I don't ever played monk, so I haven't played. So my main was a monk in vanilla, and I haven't really played monk much since. But so monk has a new legendary belt. Each hit with seven-sided strike grants 3 to 3.5% damage reduction for 7 seconds. So that's going to kind of set up the new set that we'll be talking about in a second. Shenlong Spirit the set has changed, and so they now has a 2-set bonus. The damage of your spirit generators is increased by 1% for each point of spirit you have. And then when you reach maximum spirit, all damage is basically just increased by 300%. But you no longer passively generate spirit. And 65 spirit is drained every second until you run out of spirit.
So basically what it is with Shinlongs is, it's you're kind of like giving a huge damage buff to your spirit generators. As you go up and reach max spirit, your damage bonus is increasing. You hit maximum spirit, you have a huge damage increase, but then it also drains all of your spirit, and it kind of starts that cycle back over again.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that set. So Uliana?
Yeah.
Uliana? I want to say
Uliana.
Uliana.
I want to say Uliana.
Uliana's stratagem is the new set, the new 6-piece set for Monk. So the so this is kind of revolves around exploding palm and 7-sided strike. So every third hit of your spirit generators applies an exploding palm, and then with that, your 7-sided strike deals its total damage with each hit. So that's going to be crazy, just right there. And then the 6-piece set bonus is your 7-sided strike detonates your exploding palm. So basically, they're just going to feed off each other, and it's going to be that set's going to be nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I am excited.
Like I said, the monk with this set is going to be insane. I think Quinn, when he saw like these the data mined patch notes, I think he had to take a moment and go change his pants. When he went through and saw these monk changes, it is crazy, especially when you combine like the Shinlongs and the Ulianas together. It's just like with those, you don't need to use spirit spenders. It's 7-sided strike and generators all day or day. It's just ridiculous.
Yep. So yeah, it's exciting. So that's it for the monk though.
Yeah, that's it. You get redesigned set, one new set, and a belt. That's it. That's all you get.
That's all
But
you get.
that's all you need. I am jealous.
I don't even think like they needed much.
Uh-huh.
They've been weak for so long though. It's time for them to do well.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
take Witch Doctor.
Yeah, I'll go. I can grab Witch Doctor. Really got a lot going on in here.
A lot going on here.
Yep. So coils of the first spider. It doesn't say. I'm going to guess that this is a belt, even though it doesn't say what the item is. And sadly, forgive me, I haven't been on the PTR. While channeling fire bats, you gain 60,000 to 80,000 life per hit. So this is one of those. I'm interested in it, just because do you remember the old Witch Doctor builds from Classic at the end of Classic?
Not real well.
You'd run a CM Wizard to keep everything frozen, and then you'd also have the Cyclone Strike Monk to pull everything in close, and then your damage dealer was a Witch Doctor that would run in with the what is it, the Storm of Bats, the one that was the Cyclone of Fire. I forget the name of it, but it's like you just kind of sit there and it was one of the runes that got the range increase on it, and that would just go through and kill everything. But your problem was, you might die if you take too many hits, if the enemies, get unfrozen. But now it's just, while you sit there and continue to channel it, you're like immortal. I'm gaining so much life per second now. That's going to be insane.
Oh yeah, because they were the top DPS at the end of vanilla.
They were up
at
there.
the
They're definitely
beginning.
up there.
at the beginning of ROS
Mm-hmm.
too, weren't they?
Yep.
Like, once Jade was introduced, they were still
Yep.
it was
Yeah, the next item, Jerem's bracers. They're bracers. Spoilers. Wall of Death can be cast up to twice within 2 seconds of the original cast before the cooldown starts. So now with those bracers, you can go through and set up 3 walls of death before it actually goes on its 8-second cooldown. So that will help build upon the Helltooth harness, which is focused around Wall of Death. Which, speaking of which, let's get into those bonuses. Enemies that are hit by the Wall of Death, they become affected by a new debuff called Necrosis. It slows them, and they take 2,500 weapon damage every second for 10 seconds.
sounds like a lot.
That is a decent amount of damage, I must say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will be interested to see how that actually translates into the viability.
Yep.
Because you can always see those big damage numbers, but if you don't have a way of like, 'cause even with those huge damage figures, when you're pushing your highest grade of rift, that's ticking away, little bit by little bit on the enemy's health bar. So
Hmm.
wait and see if it's enough. And then the 4-piece set bonus, after you apply Necrosis to an enemy, you gain a 50% damage reduction for 10 seconds. So that's kind of like, again, a lot of these sets they've got a little bit of survivability, a little bit of offense baked into most of them. So you're actively going and casting Wall of Death, and as long as you hit somebody with it, you gain 50% reduced damage for those 10 seconds. And then finally, when the enemy is afflicted by necrosis and it's already taken the 2,500% weapon damage, it gives you an 800% damage bonus to all of your primary skills: Acid Cloud, Fire Bats, Grasp of the Dead, Piranhas, Wall of Death again in Zombie Charger. So it works a lot like those Zunimasos, where if you use a Mana Spender, it gives you a damage bonus. Now it's just you cast Wall of Death, they take increased damage. They're taking a shitload of damage from the necrosis debuff itself, and then almost everything else that you're doing is just doing insane amounts of damage. So
Yeah.
that is going to be a nice little set to
I would be
go and start playing around with.
yeah, I would be interested to see the speed of this, like how quickly it can kill things. Like
Hmm.
um it increases a lot of the weapon damage, but I would be interested to see like the skills that are being used. Like how like
Hmm.
what can be used to like I mean, because I'm thinking of like the pet build where like that thing just you don't have to do a whole lot because like those pet like all those fetishes are already just attacking quickly and um, get through there pretty quick. So I'd be I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We'll go through and see, especially with just some of the other things that are
Hmm.
going on. They Manajuma's Way got redesigned. The 2-piece set bonus is now the angry chicken rune for Hex. The explosion damage is increased by 100%, and then slain enemies will explode their own. So it's kind of like a little chain explosion, and then it'll also make it so that way it lasts 15 seconds, and your movement speed is increased by an additional 100% again. Um, the new set piece that they're getting, the Spirits of Archia, Akar, Arakshar.
Or
I'm not even.
I was
I don't know.
saying our Eric here, I think
Eric
earlier.
here,
I
Eric
don't know.
here, Eric. I don't know. I don't. Why?
It's not in the books.
Why? No. Why do you give me these
Iraq
names to
here.
pronounce?
Iraq here.
Um, the 2-piece set bonus is use now summon your Spider Queen as permanent, and it will leave behind like kind of like a trail of webs that does 1,500% weapon damage per second over 5 seconds, as well as slowing the enemies. And the Spider Queen you can actually command. So it's like one of the first pets that you kind of
That's
have
pretty
some
sweet.
control over. Is when you cast Corpse Spiders at a location, she'll move there. So you can kind of like go through and be like, I want to set webs in this direction, so I'll throw corpse spiders over there, and she'll immediately go and start running over there and dropping webs, so you can kind of have it go in circles and entangle any of the enemies and make sure that they're constantly having that debuff reapplied to them.
Hmm.
The 4-piece set bonus Hex gains the effect of the Toad of Hugeness rune, which got changed to now kind of pull in enemies and give them a debuff that does damage over time. I don't know if they take the effects of both runes, the one that you have equipped as well as the Toad of Hugeness. So I'll probably someone will be able to answer that in chat real quick here. But also, while the Toad of Hugeness is active, you take 40% reduced damage, and then after it finishes, or after he finishes a meal, so every time that he goes through, eats an enemy, spits it back out, you heal 10% of your maximum life per second for 10 seconds. I wonder if that stacks, because that would be up to what, 50% of your health per second for 10 seconds?
Which would be really fast.
Yeah,
You
that would
wouldn't
be a
need
lot.
all 10 seconds.
Yeah, and then of course it's all of your kind of like your creature skills are increased by 500%. So your corpse spiders, fire bats, hex, piranhas, and plague of toads now all deal 500% increased damage at all times. You have the Spider Queen's Grasp, which is a one-handed dagger. Will now always roll with plus 45 to 60% increased corpse spider damage. And Zunimas's Haunt received a little bit of a change. That now, instead of making it so that way your fetish army lasts until they die, it will also it now, or what is it? It now also reduces the cooldown of Fetish Army by 80%, is the way that it's worded. I don't know if that replaced the 2-piece set bonus, so that way they don't last until they die, it just reduces the cooldown, or it does both. But again, I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to play on the PTR. I'll wait for someone to correct me in chat here, as I'm sure somebody will, unless we don't have any Witch Doctor players. But I saw a couple people talking about
Yeah.
Witch Doctors in there, so hopefully somebody has the answer.
Yep.
It is okay. So Borodor just went through and confirmed it is both. So there you go.
There it is.
Yep. You want to take
Mr.
the
Wizard,
wizard? Yep, the wizard changes there.
I will do that. So Chantoto's Resolve, the set has been redesigned. So it now has the two set bonus of basically every second that you're in your Archon form, you basically release a wave destruction that deals 350% weapon damage to enemies within 30 yards of where you cast it. And then every time you hit with an attack that's while you're not in Archon form, 350% weapon damage is basically added to the wave of destruction that stacks up to 20 times. That seems like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess we'll see there. And then with the Archon changes, so we're also seeing that has also that's been redesigned. So with that, Veers has also been redesigned, and it's now now the two set bonus, Archon gains the effect of every rune, which I believe was already that was the 4-piece bonus before, and now the 4-piece bonus, you are automatically start with 50 stacks of Archon when you enter the Archon form. And then now there's a 6-piece bonus, which I believe, yeah, so I think there was just a 4-piece before, and it was not a 6-piece set. You also gain your Arcana stacks when you hit with an Archon ability.
Yeah,
So
and the Archon stacks is Archon gives you a damage bonus every time you kill an enemy for the duration, of the Archon skill itself. So now you start off with a flat 50% damage bonus while in Archon form, and then you don't have to kill an enemy, you just have to hit an enemy with an Archon ability, and you gain stacks of the damage bonus.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Which will also tie in. I'll jump a little bit because they're also they're changing the bonus of the Laswami, the legendary wizard hat. So the damage bonus that you get from kills in Archon form lasts 10 to 15 seconds. Now it lasts 15 to 20 seconds. So it's a little bit of an increase there to get your damage going.
Mm-hmm.
They added in a property to Ariet's Law, the one-handed spear. A weapon throw now generates up to additional fury based on how far the enemy is that it's hit. So as if you hit an enemy that's 20 or more yards away, it will give you 20 additional fury for it. Interesting little change. I don't know if weapon throw is even really a thing for barbarians anymore.
I haven't seen it. I
Yeah,
remember that was one of those skills in Diablo 2 that never got used either.
yeah. No, there were throw barbs. I liked throw barbs.
I never used one.
I mean, you're playing a barbarian in Diablo 2. You're just kind of doing it wrong. Um,
Oh, come on. I guess I never really looked at builds in Diablo 2 anyway. Maybe a
yeah.
few, but
Oh, in-game barbarian. I mean, given that it's like if you followed a bot around or something like that, it didn't really matter. But if you're just playing solo, you had kind of like two things. You go whirlwind, and you could kill all enemies but not kill bosses, or you go frenzy, so you could kill bosses but you couldn't kill any enemies on your way
I
there.
was a whirlwind guy.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it worked. Um, the Izcob, Izukob, the weirdly
So,
named little one-handed crossbow for demon hunters, is receiving a new ability and a name change. It's now becoming Vala's Bequest, which makes it so that way strafe now pierces enemies. So that will be interesting. Now since strafe's the thing with the Natalia's build, I will I
that'd be
wonder.
interesting.
Yeah, since most of your damage comes from crashing rain and rain of vengeance, and not so much from strafe, I don't know if that will really compete with say a calamity as your offhand, in addition to having just Nat Slayer. But I'll be interested in seeing how that works out.
Yeah,
If anything comes from that, if
could
they
make
make it
strafe more
useful.
usable.
Yeah. And then the new seasonal legendary items. Bane of the Stricken is back, and I just want to hope
Whoa.
and make sure that flavor text has stayed the
Yeah, I
same.
looked for that when I read this. I didn't
Okay.
see anything.
All right. We'll hope. We will hope. So this now it's each time that you make an attack against an enemy, it increases the damage it takes from your attacks by 1%. And then at rank 25, gain 25% increased damage against Rift Guardians and bosses at rank 25. Which, right now, that's great. Because, the
Hmm.
25% increased damage against a Rift Guardian, when a Rift Guardian takes, up half of your Rift, it basically increases your overall damage by 12%, for the entirety of the rift from just that single gem.
Which they
But
are changing the Rift
they
Guardian
are changing the
thing.
Rift Guardian, so it's not as big of a bonus as it once
So maybe
was.
that's why they're now reintroducing it.
Well, it had a different damage bonus. Before it was
Oh,
just
did it?
every attack that you did increased the amount of damage that the enemies took, and then the level 25 unlock made it so that way your pets could proc the skill. So you know a pet witch doctor with 20 fetishes and all of his dogs running around would go through, hit an enemy, and then within just a few seconds, like a Rift Guardian is taking 3,000% increased weapon damage from every attack against it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it was beforehand, it was broken, like beyond all comprehension of the term broken. Um, and it wasn't just that I was taking 3,000% increased weapon damage, from like your melee attacks or whatever. It's just taking 3,000% increased weapon damage from everything that you did to it. So each one of their little attacks, they went from dealing, like the 50% increased damage to like 3,000% damage. So if anything, when things just fell over and died instantly as soon as you looked at them. Did it was not balanced in any way, shape, or form. Um, but moving on, the things of yesteryear. The barbarians are getting a new mighty weapon. Cleave deals 300 to 400% increased damage based on the percentage of missing fury. So I believe it's the more fury you're missing, the more damage it does. Crusader, Sacred Harness, new legendary belt. Judgment is cast at the landing location of your falling sword, which is a nice little toolkit with the new item that they added
Yeah.
in, or the new rune that they changed, so that way, the one judgment rune that when you use falling sword, any enemy hit deals reduced damage. So now you kind of drop down, even though you're taking reduced damage from the enemies because of your set bonus, they're also doing reduced damage in addition to that. So everything's reducing damage, and you're going to be invincible, which is what Crusaders kind of do best. Demon Hunters are getting a new legendary hand crossbow. Spike trap, sticky trap spreads to nearby enemies when it explodes, so you can have chain explosion going around. You remember they increased the damage on it, but also decreased the damage radius of the explosion. But still, if you're in a tightly packed rift, that can kind of go off the screen. It'll be fun going and
Can you
watching
say
that.
can you say spike trap, sticky trap spreads 5 times fast?
I will not even attempt that. We've got a new legendary fist weapon coming from monks. Seven-sided strike performs an additional 7 strikes. So that one, they'll be going back into that set, so that way is doing like the 5,000% increased, or is doing like 5,000% weapon damage with each hit. I wonder if this item makes it so that way each one of that it now will do like the 10,000 weapon damage, since it does the entirety of its damage with each hit through the entire attack. And then also the belt that reduces the amount of damage that you take. So that would be what somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40 something percent reduced damage that everything that you're taking from just that one little claw. Though someone was going through and mentioning earlier that Quinn was going and playing around with the set, and that the damage is just not where it needs to be for that particular set. That the numbers kind of need to be adjusted on it, but we'll see how that works out. Witch Doctors, Henry's, oh god, Perquisition?
Perquisition. Perquisition?
Yeah, Henry's Perquisition, new
I thought it was
Mojo.
prerequisition until you started
Yeah. Well, that's definitely
stalling.
not. Yeah, that's not prerequisition.
It's
Missing
not.
some e's in there. Um, new Mojo. The first time that an enemy deals damage to you, you reduce that damage and charm that enemy for 3 seconds. So a little bit of survivability going in there. And I wonder if is that the cat? Is that Mr. Pickles?
What is it?
I don't know. Is that someone confirm that? If anyone's played around with it, I want to know if that's the cat.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the little cat offhand that they showed at
So creepy.
that's been like my dedicated tweet on my Twitter since BlizzCon. I absolutely loved it. And then finally, Wizards are getting a new belt. Fazula's Improbable Chain. Archon stacks also increase your attack speed, armor, and resistances by 1% instead of just your damage. So I know Jace was playing around with that one, and he does not like the current gameplay of Veers because as soon as you enter Archon form, it is one of those you become a god and everything around you dies.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can stand against you. But as soon as you drop out of Archon form, your damage hits the floor and everything rolls over you.
Yeah.
And you just feel so gimped outside of Archon form.
Because like everything that you're wearing is revolved around Archon.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in Archon, then you're not doing anything basically.
Yep. And Borodor is saying that yes, it is in fact a cat. So that is something that I will need to go and farm just so I can take a screenshot and update my I guess cover tweet. I have no idea
That's
what that thing is called. Like when you can like sticky a tweet to the top of your feed.
I don't know. I think I've seen. I don't know if I actually have any tweets that are sticky. I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, my pinned tweet is what it's called.
There it
we go.
is.
His name is Henry.
Henry.
And also the perquisition, even though it's not spelled with you.
Percolator.
Percolator. No.
Stomp for the percolator.
Whatever. I'm having to look that word up. Is that an actual word? Perquisition.
Did we just make it through all the items?
A thorough search or a search by warrant. Interesting.
With a cat.
With a cat.
Yep.
Yeah, we made it through all the items and we're about to hit 2 hours.
Holy
so
moly.
There we go. And we still have more to cover.
Holy moly.
We still have
so maybe we should zip through these next ones.
I don't know.
So
it's not quite an hour. We're like what, an hour and 30 minutes, hour 40 minutes, something around there.
Okay.
Yeah. This is just one of those ones. It's like there's just so much to
There
cover right
is.
now.
There really is.
How we can fit it in because there's like a long, huge list of like Rift Guardian changes, changes to Grifts, changes to Adventure mode. Um,
Crafting,
yeah.
monsters,
I don't know.
cube. Like there's so much to talk about with the cube. It's crazy.
I don't know. I honestly think that we might want to just dedicate a show to like the cube on its own.
Okay.
Yeah, if
That
we
sounds
want.
that sounds good.
Sound good to you? Yeah.
So we just kind of talk about the other new changes and then
Yeah.
leave the
Just
leave the cube for
just like
or do
hitting up.
we or do we want to leave these last three topics? So the adventure mode, monster
Oh, I
changes.
mean, we could definitely go through and kind of hit the gist of it. You know, like we mentioned, like with the patch preview, adventure mode now has been redesigned. So you do bounties for the fact of doing bounties, not tied to rifts
Thank
anymore.
you. I love it. I love
Yeah.
that.
So, and we now have confirmation from what some of our speculation was last week. The legendary mats that you get from doing the bounties in the different acts are what you use for Kanai's cube. So that's the ones. It's like certain abilities when you pull the property from a legendary, so you can equip it as a passive, requires mats from all of the acts. When you want to go through and reforge a legendary, so you re-roll all the stats, you even have a chance at making an ancient back into or rolling a normal into an ancient, but I think it also could roll an ancient into a non-ancient because like basically it's like the items dropped all over again.
Yep.
So I would not recommend it on ancients if it can go backwards because you have like that 10% chance of it
Yeah.
keeping the ancient property, and that's pretty expensive of going through and like going and reforging it because it's that was five of every mat I think it
Yep.
was.
Yeah, it's five of every legendary crafting material.
Yep.
And so what I want to reiterate though is that it's five of each crafting material, and what what that means is that you have to run like all of the acts. So no longer can we just run Act One over and over and over to
Hmm.
get Ring of Royal Grandeur and then get our Rift keys, or Act Three, to get the other an overwhelming desire and um, whatever the other items. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, but like I feel like those were the two main acts that everybody just ran, and now if you want to use these items in the cube, you have to run bounties in all acts.
Hmm.
And I should say that you have to. I don't have to because right now I'm in game and Shepard's running them all, and I'm just sitting in town right now and I'm getting all these legendary crafting materials.
Yeah.
But it's just PTR, so
Hmm.
yeah. But
And Yep, and I guess just like what is it? So clarification on some of the things we were talking about last week is now like the how you have the bonus act when you log in, you pull up adventure mode and you see what act has the bonus. When you do the act with a bonus, it will give you an additional Heraldric cache,
yep,
and it will then change the act that has the bonus. So after you complete an act with a bonus, that bonus will move to a different act. So
yep,
you go in, you start like Act Two has a bonus. So you go and you do Act Two, and then now a new bonus act will activate. And then also instead of those bonuses being static like every day, they'll change every hour. So it'll go through and flip around. So you'll have different starting points like every hour as you're going through and farming.
that's really cool.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, and every time in the caches are guaranteed for the legendary crafting material, they're act specific. So you can get two of those materials every bounty or every act bounty that you run, as long as you just rotate those bonuses properly.
Yep,
They made it simpler because now instead of having to wait 5 minutes for the locator ping for the map objectives to pop up, it's now only 1 minute. So you're not like going crazy trying to find that one last enemy or, like where that one event is, like trying to find something in the battlefields of eternity, to go through and get like this one, chest to spawn to, kill the elites or whatever. It's making everything more
yeah.
streamlined. So it's taking some of the more frustrating elements out of it.
I meant to
Um,
I meant to mention this with the crafting materials. I do believe that they scale up. Like, so once you are past like T6, I believe that you start getting more. I think at around, I think at we were doing T1 earlier just to do it, and I was getting 3, but I think you start getting more the higher up you get in torment levels, I believe.
Okay.
So someone quote me or tell me I'm wrong in the chat if I am, but I'm pretty sure that you get more.
That is
So
awesome. They made a lot of changes to riffs. I think we could probably save those for another episode
I
because
think that'd be
I
good.
mean,
There's a
yeah,
lot of changes there.
a lot of changes, a lot of talk about those changes. People that loved farming Ubers and getting themselves Hellfire amulets. The key wardens themselves now drop Infernal Machines instead of keys.
Yep.
Any existing keys that you have will be converted into their corresponding machines.
Do not get rid of your keys, everybody.
Do not. And then also one of the unconfirmed or one of the undocumented changes is now when you kill Ubers, they can drop multiples of the organs.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think they can drop up to 3 organs at once. So you could go through, do a full round of Ubers and craft 3 amulets from it in one go.
It's pretty cool.
Yep, that's.
I have so many machines now because of that in PTR. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right. So yeah. So that's We'll save that. We can
Well,
save the
yeah,
riffs because there's a
yeah.
lot
I saved
changes there.
we can save the riffs and the monsters. That all kind of ties in together with
Mm-hmm.
like the crowd control changes and stuff. We can talk about that on
Yeah.
next week's episode. We can dive more into the cube and all the possibilities, all the builds and everything else that unlocks
Yeah.
for next week's episode. So
That's
that
that's going to be a packed episode.
oh yeah, just with those changes alone, it's gonna be
Yeah.
just those things. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
With
Sorry,
that.
everybody, for not talking about that stuff tonight. I know that's probably the hot topic that a lot of people want to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
We would be here. We would be here till like for another 2 or 3 hours.
At a minimum. At a minimum.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yep. So, shall we go through and jump into some emails?
let's
Start
do
talking
it.
about. Let's see what everything that you all have been interested in saying since last week's episode in
Oh
these new
yeah.
PTR notes and data mine and all that stuff.
Yeah. I'll start off because the first one was from Mr. Dorcas. He said he was reaching out basically to me, just interested in achievement hunting, helping me out, and since then he's helped me out, and I believe he's SCX. I believe I think I've put 2 and 2 together, but yeah, just wanting to know my battle tag. So yeah, if you guys are interested, just shoot me a note, or shoot Westmarch Workshop at blitzpro.com a note, and if you want to do some achievement hunting with me, I'm doing uniques right now, so anybody's welcome to join me. Or if you have any questions on old achievements or any achievements you're trying to get, I've probably done them, or I am in the process of doing them, and so I'm happy to help however I can. So thanks for that email, and thanks for your help, sir. He actually I'll go ahead and read the other because he's actually sent another email as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he wanted to bring this up on his idea on how dexterity used to be dodge at a dodge, and now the dexterity equals strength, to where they're kind of well, they're basically they both add armor. So strength adds armor and dexterity adds armor, and intelligence adds resist all resists. Um, and so his idea was wondering if maybe dexterity could add a mixture of it. So maybe um, like basically half of each one of those. So it would add half of a resist all and half of an armor, which actually I think it would be like a 1/20th of a resist all, or um, I don't remember the exact number for resist all in there, but um, basically half of what an intelligence would give you, and half of what a strength would give you. So
Yeah.
he's just wondering, like, would that be something, like, he thinks that could be a way to combat, making it more difficult by introducing dodge, but at the same time, making it different than strength. So, what are your
That
thoughts?
yeah, that's one. Like, if you made it so that way, Dex increased resist all in armor would be, I think, a little bit broken, just because the way that those stats work combined with one another. It's like it's a hard concept to go through and kind of explain or get it out of my head. But it's when you have like a very high amount of armor, like the strength and dex users have, in comparatively a smaller amount of resist compared to the int users, it
Mhm.
will work out a little bit in a certain area. They, you know, barbs, monks, and crusaders all have innate melee damage reduction. Um, just for the fact that they're a melee class, they have 30% reduced damage across the board. Uh, that really helps them out because that bonus to armor isn't as big as a bonus to resistances, because you're going to start off with a base higher armor because your items have armor on it. Um, so whether you have like +0 to armor or 0 strength or anything along those lines, you're already going to start off with 5,000 armor just from your items. Whereas you don't start off with any base resistances besides what is it, like 70 or 7 resistance? Yeah, like I think it's you start off with 7 resistance,
Is it?
from your level, unless you're an int class. Whereas on the other side, wizards and witch doctors, they have that a huge amount of base resist because they're stacking intelligence,
Mhm.
but they also still have that same base 5,000 armor that gives them a little bit better leverage in terms of their survivability and their survivability stats. The only thing that this really kind of comes into play is demon hunters, which are some of the squishiest ones. Monks do have, some they are kind of squishy. That kind of comes down to like skill selections compared to like barbs and monks, or not barbs and monks, barbs and crusaders as opposed to monks. That's why I believe it was what was the bracers that they added in that gave them the damage reduction? Was that
The monks.
yeah? Was it the Gungdo gear? Or was that the one that
Uh, oh man, you're
it's
quizzing me.
after they used a generator or a spender, they gained damage reduction for a certain amount of time.
Oh man, I don't
That was
remember.
just one of those ones to kind of compete with just the way that you could build a Crusader or a Barbarian through passives. Spirit Guards. There we go. Um,
Spirit guards.
um, it's just if you give like a monk and a demon hunter base resist in base armor from the dexterity, it kind of would give them, I guess, a leg up, compared to the other ones, because they're having a baseline for both stats and then building upon both of those. So
Yeah,
it would give them probably more survivability than what the designers would want.
that's
And
a.
I guess I took 5 minutes to say that.
It's an interesting thought though. And it's interesting to think about a way to differentiate dexterity from strength as well, rather than just being the main stat that each different class uses.
Hmm.
How to make it different without introducing more complexity. I mean, that would make it slightly more complex, but without introducing a different, introducing dodge in there. So maybe not that in particular, but it's something to think about for sure.
Hmm.
So,
Ah, let's see. I'll take the next email here.
all right.
This one comes in from longtime viewer Lala.
La la.
She wanted to go through and say, first off, grats to Lieutenant Lunatic for the permanent spot. Good
Thank you,
decision.
Lala. Thank
She said
you.
good decision, so props. Happy for you. Uh, and then also, she wants to say that she called it when it comes to the cube's properties on an episode way back, ever so long ago, when I was still farming for Tasker and Theo. She kind of had the idea of what if there was something in the game that allowed you to re-enchant the legendary property. So that way, you know, like going through and putting the Tasker and Theo affix on the Marauder's gloves, so that way you could run that, something along those lines. So you just re-roll those things. So she had that concept and that idea probably when they were going through and coming up with the idea of how they wanted the cube to work and such. So she is going through and stealing Wyatt Chang's cliff notes and peering through his window at night. Um, to get all the sweet, sweet details. And
Come
she
back,
also,
Lala.
yeah, she's also been mentioning just how she's had a problem getting back into Diablo recently, and it kind of just comes with what the top build is. She doesn't like playing a dash monk, just cannot stand the playstyle whatsoever. She loves how strafe works for the Nats, but she doesn't want to play a demon hunter. She wants to play a monk, and it's just the play style doesn't work for her. She wants something different, and so that kind of has killed her enthusiasm for playing the game. I definitely hope that they go through and make the new monk set and the new monk build, uh, you know, in-game viable to compete with the other sets if they go through and tweak some of the damage figures. From what we've been hearing, that you'll have your wish and you'll have something else to play. And I mean, that's another thing that got me excited is just I fell in love with the monk based on Exploding Palm and Seven Sided Strike when they debuted the monk at the BlizzCon back in 2008, 2009, something around there. Whenever they went through and debuted it, it was just Seven Sided Strike and Exploding Palm, two greatest things that ever existed in the
They're
game.
pretty sweet.
Yep, and then they ended up not being as hot once the game went live. Well, Exploding Palm was. Exploding Palm was always powerful, but anyways, um, it doesn't have the same gigantic gore explosion that it did. If you go and look up the monk reveal in the B-roll footage for that, it's just like it puts a bleeding heart over their head that's just pumping, and then when they die, it's just huge explosion of blood all over the screen. It coats everything in blood. The screen turns red. It's amazing, beautiful, beautiful little cinematic quality there. But yeah, um, yeah,
Come back to
hopefully,
us, Lala.
yeah, come back. Definitely come back. Oh God, clam chat. And then she's gonna be going out of town for a little week, but she'll hopefully come back and catch up the next couple of weeks. So we wish
Good.
you good vacation. Have fun.
Have fun. So this next email comes from our great friend overseas, Mr. Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
He's just psycho.
And we have
Oh,
Lieutenant Lunatic and Sergeant Psycho.
yeah, except he's an actual sergeant. I'm not a
Oh,
lieutenant.
there
So
you go.
so we'll give him more props. Um, so he says the pronunciation of his name is Siku. So I'm having a feeling. Oh, he does. He's just kidding. Yeah, I'm calling his bluff.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, he welcomed me aboard, so appreciate that. And he's recommending me to keep reading the books, which lately I have not had time to read at all. So I will get back into them soon. So he's recommending me to get into those. I will get there. For those of you who read my Transmog Tuesday this week, I talked a little lore on Transmog Tuesday as well, so you guys might want to check it out. um, so he checked out 2.3 and he's super excited. And every time he thinks of the cube, he hears Peter Collins' voice from the first Transformers, um, just about the cube. So, yep. And then he also wants to add that his deployment is nearly half over. So he says he's starting to hear fly home dates, but he's only taking them with a grain of desolate sand. I see what you did there. Uh, so yeah, he says that he, um, he's about half done, and um, yeah, um, man, we're wishing you the best, buddy, and excited for you to get home, play some Diablo with us. You still got your spot in the clan, and um, yeah, we're excited for you to get home. So,
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
um, yeah, get home safe, my friend. So, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. Let's go through. We got another one here from. We have a realist style. Hey, bros, popped collar and all.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
con- Congrats to Lunatic for the Blizz Pro promotion. At least
Thank you,
until
sir.
9 drops a hashtag all your fault. Yeah,
Oh, come
I
on.
can't. I can't
We'll come
take
up
the
with one.
blame away from Archon. Come on now. Um, Anyways, he's been playing a lot of the PS4 since launch. Can do Greater Rift 30 and Torment 6 with no problem. He just hit Paragon 300 and he's stoked due to the fact that it was the blood, sweat, and tears of being what felt like the one legit player out of all of his friends, or all the people on his friends list. That apparently, I'm gonna guess that everyone out there is running like a 300,000 DPS Azure Wrath with 16 sockets in it.
But
Um,
Azurath looks cool.
Yep. He just wants to ask, what are you guys doing to get the mad Paragon levels in one season, let alone, in the whole year? And if he wants to share his PSN handle, and ask people to drop a message for legit players, that would be quite awesome. Um, so, if you play on the PlayStation and you are looking for someone, his is realist style. So and it's realist style. So RealistStyl. You can go ahead, add him on the PlayStation Network, and he will be more than
YLE.
happy. YLE. Did I
Yep.
misspell that?
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, damn it.
Realist style.
Yeah,
Realist and style.
realist
All one.
style. Yep, I cannot even spell. There you go. Um, and he just basically just wants to play with people that play, legitimately, no hacked items or anything like that. So there you go.
Yep.
Um, and I know that there is some disconnect between the PC and the console versions, just with like the number of enemies that will spawn on the screen and such. So you have a little bit more of an advantage playing on the PC for getting the XP bonus. You will gain Paragon levels faster playing PC than you will on console. But yeah, a lot of it comes down to just playing with people.
Yep.
The experience boost is huge when you play in a group. So
Yep.
yeah, that's one of those ones that will definitely help you, go through and gain a ton of levels really quickly. And of course, playing on as high of a difficulty as you can when you're just going through and farming on Torment 6 is great. And a lot of it comes from just like chain running like level 35, 40 greater rifts with a group of people, as you're knocking them out really quick. You're getting a ton of XP, and just going through and upgrading gems and stuff like that.
Yeah, you really just you need a group that's all has the same mindset as what it is. Like everyone's like, okay, we're playing fast, and this is what we're doing. We're not going to spend time in town. When you start spending time in town, that's when it just adds up. Even if you don't realize it, it starts to add up. And then,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, that I mean, I think that's probably the best. And I mean, you used to be able to kind of leech the other people. You might be able to use some experience gear. But I believe in 2.3 they're evening out the experience. I don't, you know what? Don't quote me on
This
that.
there what
There,
the change one of the changes that they're making is kind of like you'd have like the person in some of the higher end public games that would just be leeching. They'd come on with like
yeah,
full XP gear, which is a lot of streamers or people at very high Paragon levels at the end of a season. You know, what they do is they have a dedicated group that's kind of there to help them.
yep,
They have a support team, and so they'll put on Canes, I think, what is it, Captain Crimson's, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and just everything on their gear is plus XP, so they have ridiculous amounts of XP percentages, as well as all their gear has plus XP gains, per kill, just so that way they can, shoot straight to like Paragon 800 at the beginning of the season and like end at Paragon like 1200 or something, insanely ridiculous like that. What
yep,
they're doing now is the XP bonus will be averaged across the group. So if you have one person that's going through and having that XP gear set up, it's going to benefit everyone in the group the same amount. So that person with the XP gear is kind of actually holding you back because he's not really contributing to killing anything.
yep, yeah. So ultimately, like I mean, get high paragons to play a lot and play quickly.
Mm-hmm.
and get like-minded people. I think those are going to be the biggest things.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And there's some people going through. I see some people, talking about how much they hate plus XP in chat right now, and they even talking about it earlier in chat as well. Um, that they just want to see plus XP removed, like completely. Um, is that the next Magic Find?
I don't know. That's
Who
that's
knows?
interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would be okay with them doing away with XP because I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like how fast you level should be based on like the gear you're. Well, I mean, I guess it is a gear-based game, but like I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
part of that, I remembering an argument that Flux had constantly when they removed Magic Find gear, because they're limiting your choices of playing the game. Like if I want to go through, load up a ton of Magic Find gear, take longer to kill enemies or get more legendaries from it, that's my decision as far as gameplay goes. Is it the same thing for XP? I just want to throw on a ton of XP gear and some people will leech in public games. Most of the time, though, it's because it's not leeching. It's you have a dedicated group that is there. They're all going through and set up. Okay, we're leveling this guy. Throw on
mm-hmm.
everything you've got. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll
Guess
have to
we'll
see
see.
what they do as far as the plus XP gear. That would not be a change I would expect them to do until we go into another expansion, though.
Yep.
Here's hoping. Here's hoping. Um, our last email comes in from Victor from Tahiti. Wanted to know what like the best setup for the cube for the hardcore tune is, especially for DPS players. I think we'll actually answer that one next week on our cube episode.
Yep. That's a loaded question, my friend.
Yeah, that was definitely loaded. That was gonna we'll probably open the episode with that question,
Should
but
be good.
fear not, Victor. We will get to you next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so now let's hop into some items. Items of
Let's
the
do
week.
it.
Everybody's favorite. Everybody's favorite. Let's see if OBS decides to freeze on me like it did in the pre-show. No, it transitioned.
All right.
We're actually working.
I
Great.
hate I hate being like the like so I'm a sports fan. I enjoy sports and I
Mhm.
watch I used to watch Sports Center like religiously and all I can think of from the 90s ESPN Sports Center they would say plays of the week. It'd be like items of the week.
I by all means, if that's how you want to introduce it going forward,
I
I will
probably
not
won't.
stop you, but I will not do it. Um, yeah, so going and jumping right in here, our first item of the week comes in from Blue Right. Found this ancient the barber,
The barber.
ancient legendary dagger, clocking in at 2,773 DPS. It came. Now these are all the stats that it came with. He hasn't touched it at all. It rolled 10% increased damage, 986 strength, 966 fatality, and then increased critical hit damage by 35%. Not exactly the best. The actual damage bonus that it rolled was fairly low. For it's as a dagger, it's not going to be winning any damage competitions there, but I don't know if you ever actually would want to use this, but if you did, probably re-roll the primary damage on it as opposed to turning the vitality into something else. And then of course it still has a place there for throwing Ramelodnies on there for a socket if you wanted to. But I
Yep.
mean,
If you have a
it's
plethora.
yeah. I mean, if you have it just sitting around, in your stash, it's not this one. I just wanted to go through and feature a little bit because you don't really get too many of these little items that we have in.
Yeah.
Um, we have a couple items in here from Daryl. Sent us in some stuff from the PTR. He actually sent us. I want to at least give him a little bit of a shout out. We got we got like a ton of items coming in from him. But I could only go through and feature a few of them. So just going and getting those set up there. The first one here is the new belt, the Binding of the Lost. which is it's every time that you hit an enemy with 7-sided strike, you gain a 3% damage reduction for 7 seconds. It is 3 to 3.5% on the bonus, which is around it's 20ish, a little like 21% damage reduction. And if that other item works the way I think it does, you'll be getting like the 42ish% damage reduction for the 7 seconds after using 7-sided strike. But it rolled. It's not a legendary, or it's not an ancient, so it rolled 478 dexterity, 495 vitality, regions 4,800 life per second, and increases deadly reach damage by 13%. Nice little item coming in from the PTR.
Yep.
And then, of course, it rolled the Golden Health Globe pickup range increased by 1 yard, and it rolled the each hit of 7-sided strike reduces your damage reduction by 3%. His another item that he went through and sent in from the PTR is the Juliana's Destiny. It's the ancient set boots that clocked in at 615 dexterity, 564 vitality, re-rolled for 123 all resist, and plus 457% or plus 457 armor. 457% armor. We're talking about like Diablo 2 items where you're going through and looking for like that, like cruel property for the 300% increased weapon damage on your weapon. Secondary stats, 2,500 thorns damage and increased gold pickup by 1 yard. This was the set where your spirit generators supplied exploding palm, and your 7-sided strike it deals increased 7-sided strike damage and causes your 7-sided strike to explode exploding palm.
If you look at the picture, if you can see the picture, he's already got his 6-piece set bonus.
Yeah,
Well
that
done,
2,000% increased drop rate there.
That's true.
Yeah, moving on, we've got an item sent in by Sharpie. Went through and sent us in an ancient Immortal King's Boulder Breaker. This massive thing clocked in at 4,236 DPS. Rerolled it for 10% damage. It was already rolled okay on the primary damage. I do wonder if it just did not roll damage percentage at all. It was okay on the primary damage. Could have been better, but I guess if you probably hit that with the calculator on your own and saw that it was better to like re-roll the another stat into the 10% damage. Got the 1405 strength, 1,340 vitality, increases the damage of Call of the Ancients by 56% out of 60. And the secondary bonus, like we were just talking about earlier, plus monster kills grant 241 experience, ignores durability loss, and Ronald McDonald's Ramalana Ding Dongs in there for a socket.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's good looking.
Yeah, we have another item that was gone and sent into us from Cruel Velocity. He also is going through and playing on a console. That's why the screenshot looks a little bit different from what you might be used to. I don't know if you play Cruel Velocity, if you play on PS4 or Xbox. But if you do, Realist Style, if you play on PlayStation, Realist Style is looking for some play partners. So you can go
Xbox
have a little...
guys, come on.
We'll start.
I know that argument started with you and me. We can save that for another day.
We'll definitely save that for another day. Actually, we'll save the argument completely. PlayStation's better. There's. This one coming in from the console rolled 3,045 damage for his Kreider shot. Sorry, I should start off with it as a Kreider shot for those that are going and listening and not watching. So he sent in his Kreider shot, rolled 3,045 damage, re-rolled for 9% increased damage. Still looking for the 10% there probably. Came with 998 dexterity. Increases. I'm sorry, I always get confused when I'm looking at it because when you socket an item on the console, it comes up as a property. So I was about to read 130% increased crit damage when that's just the actual socket, not one of the stats on the item. Of course, the elemental arrow now generates 4 hatred, and the secondary bonus reroll came in and rolled plus 11 to maximum discipline, and of course, you have your socket going and rolling in there, which I think this one has not been hit with the Romuladnes just yet. So that'd be something to go through and throw on there to make the thing sexy. Or I guess, well,
Since it's already
you already re-rolled something else out of the socket, so I don't know. It's just confusing going through and looking
Yeah, it is.
at one of these
What we're used
items
to seeing.
without the all of the stats there, just with the socket. But I do believe that did not have Rom Nalodny's on there because it only has 4 properties, including the socket.
Yeah, I don't think there is one.
Yep, and so, oh well, oh well. You can always hope for another Crider shot on that one.
Ancient.
Yeah, ancient Crider shot. Yeah,
Good
yeah,
luck.
knock on wood. Oh, but then again, if you get the Kanai's Cube, well, no, if you get the Kanai's Cube, if you reforge it, then it probably won't be ancient. Although you could just keep reforging it till you get an ancient again.
I will probably actually be doing that with a Crider shot.
Yeah. For at least if I get a Crider shot next season, if I play a Demon
That's
Hunter,
true.
that would be the first one that you get, and then just sit there and re-roll it till it's ancient.
It's real pricey though to re-roll those.
It is, yeah.
I believe it was like 50 Forgotten Souls or so.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert. Next week.
Yep. And then we have another item sent in here from Mads. Coming in from the EU, wanted to go through and share the Hellfire Amulet. Rolled 737 strength. Re-rolled a perfect 100% critical hit damage and came with 9.5% crit chance.
Well done, sir.
Very nice. It came with 77% extra gold in the Barbarian gain Berserker range passive, and of course a socket in there with a level 48 pain enhancer. Very nice, beautiful item that you have there, sir.
That is good looking.
Yep. And then next we we have items sent in here from Valen. We actually have 2 items in from Valen. Sent in this ancient Ingiom that's clocking in at 2,922 DPS. And it came with 8% damage, 950 dexterity, and just shy of 21,000 life per hit. Got the monster kills grant 240 experience. Rolled kind of low on legendary property, or I think that's as low as it can get. That your skill cooldowns are reduced by 8 seconds for 15 seconds after killing an elite pack. So that would be one of those ones where being able to reroll a legendary would really come in handy. Because the Ingioms, they just like really shine when you hit that 10-second mark.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a huge level of difference between the 8-second and the 10-second. And of course, Romuladny's thrown in there for the socket, and has not rerolled anything else yet. So it'd be one of those ones, looking at the damage properties, it's really close to say I don't know, I would go through and take a look, because I know monks actually do they value the having a survivability stat on their weapon, whether what it'd be worthwhile re-rolling on that particular. I'm not an expert in monks, so I don't want to give thoughts there. I'm sure someone will go through. Someone will go through and tell me what to re-roll on the item on stream eventually.
Yeah, I guess you could. I mean, re-roll the socket, right?
Yep. Someone's going through and saying life per hit into cooldown reduction.
Yeah.
There we go.
There it is.
All right. Okay. moving on. The other item that we had from Valen, Limitation, Ancient Legendary Mighty Belt. This one, he re-rolled for 648 strength, came with 574 vitality, 121 all resist, gains 1,200 life per fury spent, has the 3.8% chance to freeze on hit, and of course the legendary ability of allowing Ren to stack twice on an enemy. The limitation of the women. ideal for crushing your enemies and driving them before you. Hopefully everybody gets the Conan reference built into this item. And if you still have
I
no
didn't
idea what we're
until you
talking
said
about,
it.
killing me, Smalls.
I'm just taking
Killing
Leviathan's
me,
place,
Smalls.
not
Which,
knowing
please tell
clothes.
me that you get that
Oh
reference.
yes, oh yes, oh
Okay.
yes. You play
So,
ball like a girl.
forever. Um,
Forever.
see, Leviathan, he gets it. So know you're listening to the show. You're going through and you're listening on iTunes while you're at work. Normal people, they watch movies.
We watched Sandlot.
And at least Sandlot. And if you
My
haven't seen
my
Sandlot,
wife had never seen it, and so I had to
I'm
show it to her
sorry.
recently.
I'm sorry.
I actually it was fun. I'm not sorry because it was fun to watch it with her for the first time.
Yeah, it's like watching it again for
Yep.
the first time. Moving on, our last set of items that we have here for this evening. This was sent in from Korova. Korova, let me fully pronounce the name
Opa.
there. You had these two items drop in the same grift, and it is Ancient Leoric Signet. Again, going through talking about that experience gear. This one came with 578 dexterity, 9,000 life per second, increases crit chance by 4.5%, and 10,000 life per hit, with the secondary bonuses of 252 plus XP, and I believe that's a perfect 30% bonus experience. The Orcs goes is 25 to 30.
I've never seen it higher.
Okay, there we go. You're supposed to be here to back me up on information.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay,
There it is.
all right, there we go. But it's to my knowledge, yes, there we go. All right, thanks. Um, and then also nicely rolled Ancient Convention of the Elements. So getting the double Ancient rings in one go there. The Ancient Convention of the Elements rolled 603 Dexterity, 612 Vitality, clocked in at 5% critical hit chance, rolled with 208 Poison Resist, and then of course the property, it came in at 194% increased damage to a single element for the 4 seconds. The max of that one can roll is 200, and it came with a socket. It hasn't touched either one of these, depending on, I'm not sure if either one will actually be useful. Of course, the Oryx can be useful if you're going to go through and get carried for XP gear, but, there you go.
So many
There you
options
go. Yep.
to reroll any of
So
them
many
you
options.
want.
What the world is yours. And so that is it for our items of the week. I can barely see your head
Oh
on the
yeah,
stream
I
there, so
forgot
you
that.
might want to
That's
sit
usually I'm
back
not.
up.
Usually I'm not like on the screen during that, and then I
Hmm.
don't.
You are not on the screen during that. When we come back, you need to be on the screen.
Well, I didn't even know that. All that good
I
stuff.
even set you up because I even went through and said
Here
our
we are.
final item
Here we
when I
are.
was
I'm
going
so
into
comfortable
Coronas.
now. Oh, that was fun. That was
Yeah.
a lot of good items,
Yeah.
a lot of good talks.
Yeah. Yeah. And clocked in a little over 2 hours for this episode. So
Yep.
ever so slightly. So unfortunately, the YouTube export, it will not be going out tonight because I will have to go through and re-edit this. Thankfully, tomorrow I am not working a double, though I am working in the evening, and I will be sleeping until then, just to try and catch up on some rest from the past couple days. So I don't have my schedule for Friday, but I will definitely. This episode will be out there by Friday. If you came in late, if you want to catch the beginning of it, or if you're just looking forward to it. And if you're listening to this already, you already know what day that I had it in, so you're able to tell the future before I said it. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You'll definitely, definitely, yeah, definitely, yeah,
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 definitely.
definitely, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That
yeah,
does it, right?
that brings us to an end on this episode. Catch us next week when we're going to be going through talking about some of the further changes to Rifts, Griffs, Rift Guardians, and everybody's long-awaited thing that they never knew that they were waiting for, Kanai's Cube.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and of course, you can always go through and find us. I think I clicked to the outro page a little bit too soon, but
That's okay.
I'm about to
That's
fall
okay.
asleep here. You can follow myself at 9ballgamer. You can follow Lieutenant Lunatic here at LT Lunatic22. Follow the show at the WM Workshop on Twitter. You can always find us here on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. You can find us on the BlizzPro YouTube channel. You can find us in-game. We're the BlizzPro clan. You can join our in-game community, the Westmarch Workshop. You can go through and find us on Raid Call 644-6240.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't have the
Yes.
game up either.
Yep.
Yep.
You can go through, find us there. I know I have been rare in there lately, but usually 3 days, Lieutenant Lunatic are in there somewhere a little after 6 o'clock Eastern.
Yep.
Um,
I go to bed early though.
Yeah, for a couple hours if you're looking for us.
Yeah.
Once my hours kind of steady out there, depending on whether I'm working mornings or evenings, you'll be able to find me in there occasionally. Until it gets crazy. And of course, when you're here, please go through, check out our other shows. Twiz is he just redesigned the Hearthstone Power Hour. It's now an Extra Life charity stream every Monday night. You can go through and find him over there at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. They're going to be playing a different game every night. Might not always be a Blizzard game, and they're doing it to raise money for the Extra Life charity. Great thing that he's going through and doing there. You can also sometimes, well, in the future, sometimes, hopefully, still be able to permanently find me Tuesday nights on the Heroes Power Hour, along with Twiz, Eldorian, DJ Tyrant, and Balrog Fan. We love playing Heroes. We're there Tuesday nights again at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Back here, on the twitch.tv/BlizzPro, or find all of our previous episodes. You can look for those shows, Heroes Power Hour, Extra Life Charity, or Westmarch Workshop on iTunes, or on the BlizzPro YouTube channel.
And speaking of iTunes, you got we would love for any 5-star reviews you guys want to leave. We will read them on air. It does help us out a lot. And just getting our name out there. So any 5-star reviews you want to leave would be greatly appreciated.
All right. Until then, let the hype soak in and marinate. Let it
get
percolate.
In that PTR.
Yeah, get on that PTR and then wait a little while until you can get into a game. But
send us an email and let us know what you guys think about the PTR. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. And we will catch you all next week.
See ya.